Miss Mike. All right. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us. It's another beautiful day. Sorry, my mic was a little bit here and there this morning. Thank you for being part of this broadcast today. And it's a joy to be here again on the Wholeness Project, where I just take time to go through some issues that affects our families, relationship, mental health, and spirituality. And today is another time to just be here, to just share with us another interesting subject that I believe is going to be of great value to us on soul ties and emotional baggage. So today I'm going to be looking at soul ties and emotional baggage, but with a little bend to a faith-based look at unhealed wounds. So, what does your faith says about your unhealed wound? How do you deal with situations in your life, that keeps just giving you a lot of trouble? So today, I'm going to be looking at quite a lot of remedies that for many of you that already know about me, you know that I'm a clinical mental health counseling graduate and also a national certified counselor. I'm a wellness coach, and also I'm just interested in seeing how families, relationship, mental health, and spiritual related issues can be you people can gain their healing. And so for today's remedy, I'll be going towards quite a lot of remedy that's going to help us understand the subject that we have today. Basically, I'm going to be covering the statistics, why this topic matters when it comes to soul ties, when it comes to emotional baggage, why this may matter as the attachment wounds that comes from it. I'll be looking at what are soul ties. Many of us we've heard about the word soul ties. So today we'll be looking at what does soul tie means. What does it mean to have a soul tie? Then also what is emotional baggage? What that means. We look at unhealthy soul ties forms, then the signs that you're carrying both soul ties and also emotional baggage. Then I'm going to look at some interventions, some strategies and techniques that can help you, you know, deal with those emotional soul ties. All right, quickly again, I'll be looking at the faith-based healing pathways, just my eyes here, trying to get some things put together. So we'll be looking at some faith-based healing pathways, then some work activities, and your action plan. The reality is soul tie is a big issue in our world today, and also the emotional baggages that we bring into a relationship that affects our work, affects our families, affects our mental health, and also our spirituality. And so let's take a quick dig into some statistics on this subject. One thing I've come to realize is this, that emotional baggage and soul ties we carry are not personal failures. That we have soul ties or we have emotional baggages, they are not failures. They are measurable universal human experiences. So when people say they have soul ties or they are carrying emotional baggages, it's part of our human experiences. 40% of adults have insecure attachment style that shape every relationship based on the wounds we're bringing from past relationships and the issues it shapes our current relationship. 70% of adults have experienced at least one significant relational trauma or wound, no doubt about that. 90% of emotional triggers in a relationship are echoes of past, not present pain. So the pain we are feeling right now, that's a result of the previous emotional triggers that we have. Then 50% of people in unhealthy relationships stay due to trauma bonding. There's what we call trauma bonding. People don't know how to get out of relationship because of the trauma they've experienced in the past. So they stay there, they rationalize, they try to, just make meaning out of what they are dealing with, but it can be very unhealthy. Then 68% of therapy clients identify childhood relational pain as a primary presenting issue. So a lot of the time, most people, the pains they bring into their relationship, into their work, into their families, into their spirituality is as a result of childhood pain. Then 3 to 4 times people are more likely to experience mental health struggle with unresolved attachment wounds. And these statistics, they are real. They are real. And if we don't take care of them, they can really hurt us and also hurt our emotions. So let's move on as we look at, what I call what are soul ties and what is the biblical foundation, the types, and the psychological parallels. So soul tie is a deep emotional, spiritual, and psychological bond formed between two people through shared intimacy, experience, trauma, or covenant. Healthy soul ties mirror secure attachment. Unhealthy ones mirror trauma bonding, creating a bond that outlasts the relationship and shapes every connection that follows. In other words, what I'm saying right here is soul ties as a result of covenant, is as a result of agreement, is as a result of getting into a relationship with someone. Many can be healthy, many can be unhealthy. For the ones that are healthy, it helps you build, it builds a healthy self-esteem, it builds strength, it builds character in us. For unhealthy covenants, unhealthy sexual intimacy, they bring these insecure attachments and pains that people take into relationships or take to their workplace, take to their businesses, their career, and others. And also, quickly, I want to look at the biblical foundation for emotional ties. When you look at First Samuel chapter 18, verse 1, the story of Jonathan and David is there. When you look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, the two becoming one flesh is an example of soul ties and attachment. Then we look at First Corinthians 6, 16 to 18, you see how sexual union can create, you know, it can create bonding, it can create soul ties, and it can create attachment. Looking at Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, there's way out is days like when you guard your heart, it determines the course of your life. So a lot of the time, the heart is the seat of soul connection. So what goes on in our heart determines what we are connecting to, because what enters must be guarded with wisdom. So the kind of relationship, the kind of covenant, the kind of intimacy that we build with people must be guarded with wisdom, so that they don't become soul ties, become insecure bonding or attachment. What are the type of soul ties that we have? We have healthy ones. These are covenant bonds, for example, marriage, deep friendship, parent-child. They, this type of covenant bonds or healthy soul ties, they create safety, they create identity and godly love. These ties, they produce the fruit of joy, peace, growth, and mutual flourishing. This is important, that our goal must always be that we have healthy soul tie. We have healthy covenants, because if we do not, then it's going to break us really, really bad. Then another type of soul ties, again, that I'm sharing here is what I call the unhealthy soul ties. These ones, they lead to trauma bonds. These are formed through sexual sin, abuse, manipulation, or toxic intimacy. This type of unhealthy soul ties, what do they do to us? They create emotional dependency, compulsive return, and spiritual entanglement. The bond persists after the person is gone. A lot of the time, many of us, we have experienced this because of the kind of relationship we have with people. And by the time that relationship comes to an end, the wound doesn't go, the experience doesn't go, because if they are not healthy, it hurts us, it breaks our heart, it causes us distress. So that's why it's important, when we form covenant, we form intimacy, we form relationship, our goal must be with wisdom. This must be healthy for us. Otherwise, when we begin to have unhealthy form of relationship, they lead to trauma bonds that can really hurt us very bad. Another type of soul tie is emotional ties. What are these? They are attachment ties. This comes with deep emotional ties formed through shared vulnerability, grief, or crisis. So you see that a lot of the time when people are dealing with the same kind of issues, they tend to have these attachment ties. You know, we said birds of the same feather flock together because of what they are dealing with, and they can be healthy or toxic depending on the health of each person and the nature of the bond. What this means is, whoever you are connecting with, whoever you're bonded with, it is important to make sure that their own trauma, their own pain is not overshadowing your emotions. It's not draining you. It's not taking out the life out of you. Because if they do, it's going to become very healthy, and it becomes emotional attachment. Then the last one I have here is what we call spiritual. What are spiritual soul ties? These are covenantal ties. They are formed through shared spiritual experiences, vows, or occult involvement. These ties can carry spiritual authority and requires spiritual intervention to fully break. What this means, a lot of people have experienced church hurt, religious trauma. When you are in the same spiritual space with people, for some people it could be in the alcohol, some people might be in the church, some might be in lodges, and just in a form of community where spirituality is talked about. If the bond there is healthy, it helps people to grow, it helps the members to become better. If it is unhealthy, then it can really hurt a lot of people. So these are the types of trauma and the types of soul ties that I want us to be mindful of, and through wisdom be able to deal with them in every area of our lives. So the next slide I'll be looking at right here now is what is emotional baggage. Now we talked about soul ties, but right now we're going to be looking at emotional baggage, defining the weight we carry into every room. Every time you get into a room, there's something you're carrying. Is it that you're carrying the presence of God, or you're carrying the presence of your pains, of your baggages? Emotional baggage is not a character flaw. It is unprocessed pain looking for a place to land. We must understand that every emotional baggage that we carry, whether we've taken it to the workplace, to our relationship, to our families, to our anything we are doing, we must know that it's not a character flaw. They are just unprocessed pain that we need to, create some safe space for. So, what is the definition of emotional baggage? Emotional baggage refers to the accumulated, unresolved emotional wounds, beliefs, and relational patterns formed by a past painful experiences that a person unknowingly carries into present relationships, behaviors, and self perception. It is not history, it is an active, invincible participant in every relationship you have. And friends, we must be very mindful of this. When we are going into relationship, we are coming in with something. We are coming with a briefcase. We are coming in with a baggage. We are coming in with pain. We are coming in with joy. We are coming in with abundance. We are coming in with lack. And sometimes they can be unconscious if they are not processed. So emotional baggages, they are unprocessed pain. There are things you have not worked on. There are things you have not truly dealt with. There are things that you we swept under the carpet. We just think, no, well, with the next relationship, it's going to be better. No, it doesn't get better. Until we fully process it, get healed, then we'll always will carry baggages to other forms of relationship. And what are the types of baggages that we'll experience that that takes us to our other relationship? The first one I have here is what I call childhood wounds. With childhood wounds comes unmet emotional needs, inconsistent love, harsh criticism, neglect, or abuse, which a lot of people have experienced. The original template that tells us whether we are safe, lovable, and enough. What does it carry? When for people that have childhood wounds, they carry the emotions of I'm a burden. Love is conditional. I must perform to belong. If you are experiencing this childhood kind of experience, you can talk to us in FGI Solutions through joelosebo.com. We'll be able to work with you to process these childhood wounds, because if they're not properly processed, you take them to your workplace, you take them to your business, to your career, to every other forms of relationship that you have. Then also the second one here is past relational pains that that a lot of people experience by betrayal, infidelity, abandonment, emotional abuse, and heartbreak from prior romantic or close relationship that never fully healed. A lot of people experience this. They were betrayed, they were abandoned, they were taken advantage of. They were people who were in a relationship with someone and that person was dishonest. This can be painful, and if it's not properly processed, people bring them into a new relationship. So what does it carry? Everyone leaves. I can't trust. Being open gets you hurt. So people don't want to be open anymore. People can't easily trust because of what they experienced in their previous relationship. Another emotional baggage that people carry daily, the weight that we carry, is generational patterns. Circles of dysfunction passed down through family systems. It could be rage, it could be addiction, avoidance, codependency, domestic violence model as normal. A lot of people grew up in places where, addiction is a normal thing, codependence is a normal thing, violence is a normal thing, and it affects the relationship. It affects what people do. It just becomes normal. So when they go into other relationship, they're expected to fight. They're expected to quarrel. They're expected to experience what they experience where they're coming from. that hurts our relationship with other people, generational patterns. Another one is grief and loss, unmourned death, losses of identity, a job, a ministry, a friendship, miscarriage, or dreams that died without space to grieve them properly. A lot of people, they grieve. They grieve their past loss. They have not dealt with it. And as a result of that, they 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 they, they, they take it to other relationship, so they take it to other relationships that affect them so badly, and it hurts their life. So when people do not process their grief, it hurts them. So they carry pains like unexplained sadness, anger at God, fear of new beginning. That's why I always encourage people, it is okay to lament, it is okay to pour out your emotions, it is okay to just pour out your heart, the way you are feeling about the things that you are experiencing in life. Because if we don't process our grief and our losses, then we will take it to other relationship, and it's going to be a big challenge and a big trouble to us. Another one is sexual shame and soul wounds. A lot of people deal with this. Messages received about sexuality from family, church, or culture that created shame, confusion, or from disconnection from the body and from intimacy. So it's important that when people are dealing with sexual shame and soul wounds, it should be processed from a place of love. It should be handled from a place of genuine care and sincerity. Because a lot of the time, people who have experienced sexual abuse, sexual wound, they feel ashamed. A lot of the time, what do they tell themselves? They carry the pain of, "Oh, I am dirty." It's difficult for them, to maintain physical intimacy. They are afraid of fear of desire. They don't want to love again. They don't want to express their love. They don't want to pour out their emotions. And that's why it's important we are very mindful when we deal with such issues. Then lastly, there's what we call the spiritual wounds. For example, spiritual trauma, spiritual abuse, unanswered prayers, or experiences that shatters one's view of God, creating a crisis of faith and identity. At this point, people begin to distrust God. They begin to they think that spirituality must be based on performance, or they are afraid of being rejected by God. This all comes to people as a result of spiritual wounds. And these are soul ties, and these are emotional baggages that can impact people. And a lot of the time, through processing in counseling, coaching, pastoral counseling can help people, overcome and deal with these challenges. All right, so let's look at this awesome and beautiful slide again. How unhealthy soul ties form. There's what we call the attachment science and spiritual dynamics. The key truth is this: unhealthy soul ties almost always form when a wound in us recognizes and is magnetized towards a complementary wound in another. This is not chemistry. This is two unhealed hearts speaking the same language of pain. When people do not deal with their pain, people connect based on their pain. So, how they form through sexual intimacy outside covenant. So, when people get into relationships that are not healthy, people form unhealthy soul ties. Trauma bonding is another area through which people form unhealthy soul ties. Emotional enmeshment. What does this mean? When two wounded people become each other's primary source of identity, what or regulations? Without healthy boundaries, a codependent soul tie forms. Neither can function well without the other. So when people they've not processed their emotions, they cannot really provide healing for each other. Then shared trauma and crisis bonding. People form soul tie through that. Then spiritual or covenantal ties, vows made, shared occultic activities. People form soul ties that way. Then, in terms of the brain science of bonding, it comes with the bonding hormone called the oxytocin, released during physical touch, sex, and emotional vulnerability. This creates powerful attachment. So every time people are bonding, something is going on, science is taking place. Then through the dopamine, what is the reward loop? When intermittent reinforcement from hot and cold relationship creates a dopamine loop identical to addiction. The highs feels necessary, the absence feels unbearable. Then the cortisol, which is the stress bond. Shared crisis elevate cortisol and creates bonding. as a survival mechanism. Then the attachment theory, early relational templates determine who we are magnetized toward. Then the last one, which is neuroplasticity, the hope. Every bond formed in pain can be rewired through consistent, safe relationships. So, in other words, as much as we form soul ties or come in with different emotional baggages, science is still at play. We must be mindful how we connect with people. We must be mindful our reward loop. Otherwise, a lot of the time, as we form unhealthy soul ties, they become emotional baggages that we take into our workplaces, our families, our relationship, and our spirituality. All right, great. No, yeah, these issues actually relate happens a lot of the time, but when you are carrying these soul ties and emotional baggages, it's important you recognize them. So, what is the signs? Because you cannot release what you cannot name. These signs are invitations, not indictment. So, these are some of the signs that will help you know that there's an emotional tie going on or there's an emotional baggage that is being carried. First is the emotional signs. You can't stop thinking about a past relationship, even years later. Unexplained grief, longing, or obsession that defies logic. You have intense jealousy or possessiveness in current relationship. You feeling incomplete or empty unless in a specific relationship. You're crying unexpectedly when a name, song, or scent appears. These are emotional signs of emotional ties and emotional baggages. Relational signs. What are they? You have repeatedly choosing similar partners with the same red flags, returning to toxic relationships you know are harmful, comparing every new partner to someone from your past, emotional reactivity triggered by ordinary partner behaviors, difficulty being present in relationship, always have elsewhere. These are relational signs of emotional ties and emotional baggages. Behavioral signs, what do they come with? Stalking social media of someone you have ended things with, keeping items, gifts, or photos that maintain the emotional pull, self-sabotaging good relationship, you're waiting to be hurt or waiting to experience what happened in the past relationship, overly guarded or overly open with no healthy middle ground, saying yes when you mean no to avoid abandonment. We must be careful. We must be careful because these are behavioral signs of soul ties and emotional baggages. Spiritual signs. Spiritual signs comes with feeling spiritually blocked, distant, or unable to worship freely, dreams or recurring thoughts about past relationships, inability to fully give yourself in prayer or intimacy with God, carrying shame to so thick it blocks access to grace, using spiritual language to justify staying in harmful situations. A lot of people will do this. Church people, I always say, we do this. We use spiritual language to try to justify harmful situations. They are spiritual signs of emotional ties and emotional baggages. Physical signs, what do they come with? Physical pain or tension when thinking about a past person. Somatic symptoms like stomach, chest, or throat with certain triggers. So when something triggers you about what has happened in the past, you begin to feel stomach ache, you have those chest pain, you have throat pain. Sleep disturbances, nightmares of hypervigilance in intimacy. You also have sexual dysfunction rooted in shame, past trauma, or unprocessed bond. You have the body remembers what the mind has tried to forget. These are physical signs of the things that we deal with. The last one, the signs that shows the first step for you to recognize that you are carrying soul ties and emotional baggages. For cognitive science, you begin to have core belief formed in wounds. I'm unworthy of love. Black and white thinking about relationships and safety. You catastrophize intimacy. This will end in pain like before. Confusion between intensity and genuine love. Then mistaking familiarity, even painful or for destiny or soul connection. So these are real issues. We must identify those signs, because if you don't identify those signs, it's going to make you become unproductive at work, when in business with other people, when in at work, when in your family, with in new relationships. The emotional ties, the emotional baggages, if they're not properly dealt with, if you don't identify the signs, if you don't name the signs, then they're going to affect you as you make progress. And let's so the next slide is, what do we need? How can we heal ourselves. So these are practical tools that can help us. Healing is not just spiritual, it requires clinical tools that work at the level of belief, body, emotion, and behavior. And I believe in this so much. As much as I believe in the place of spirituality, the clinical tools can also help us to address our belief system, our body, our emotions, and our behavior as we heal from emotional ties and emotional baggages. Cognitive behavioral therapy will give you these tools, identify those wounds and beliefs. Like I mentioned before, believe evidence test. So is this belief 100% true? In other words, what you believe, is this really true? Then thought interruption. You want to observe your thought. Are they obsessive? Are these obsessive thoughts? Can I replace this thought? You want to look at behavioral boundaries. You can block numbers. You can remove social media access. You can return or discard symbolic items. Physical boundaries accelerate emotional ones. So when there's a deliberate cut, you physically separate, then it can help accelerate your emotional healing. Then grieving the tie. So what you do, CBT will help you name relationship loss as a legitimate grief. You walk through the stages, don't skip the morning with structured grief journaling. So what you do, you write how you feel, how this situation has cost you, you process it. Then your healing will begin to come up. Then with DBT tools, we have what we call the radical acceptance. You can use the radical acceptance. You can use the tip by breaking the craving. You can do the opposite actions, you do the opposite action. The one says contact them, but do the opposite. Journal, call a safe person, pray. The one says hide, do the opposite. Be witness, don't hide, be out there. Then dear man for boundaries. So you got to describe, you express, you assert, you reinforce, you become more mindful, you appear confident, you negotiate. Use when explaining your decision to limit contact to others who question you. Then also interpersonal effectiveness. The For interpersonal effectiveness, what you need to do is what we call the give skill, which is gentle, interested, validate, easy manner, practice building new relational skills while healing. So in other words, you got to improve on yourself. You get to get better. You have to be a better version of yourself. So the circumstances and situations should not determine who you are. Then the act tools, what we need to do with that is diffuse the tie narrative. In other words, you notice you are having the thought, but I need this person to be okay. It's important. You're able to do this. You're able to manage this, and that will help you a lot of the time to deal with the issue. You want to be able to you want to be able to diffuse it quickly, and so that will help you manage that circumstances that you're dealing with. So you want to label it as a thought formed in wounding, not an internal truth about you. So that's very important. Make sure it's not your eternal truth. Then values reclamation. Who do you want to be in relationship? So it's about you defining your relationship. Three relationship values that are genuinely yours, built toward them. Another solution is psychological flexibility. Hold the grip of the soul tie without being controlled by it. Don't let it control you. Then present moment freedom. What do you do with that? Soul ties live in the past. Freedom lives in the present. Think about the freedom you have now and work with that. Practice noticing, is this person actually here right now? Ground in the actual present. If the person is not there with you, you're by yourself. Practice your just be in the moment. Then committed action daily. Each day, one act that moves you towards your healing. It's important. So these tools, as you use them, they're going to help you. They're going to help you. Your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior, they need to change. You don't need to be held bound by the soul ties of the past or by emotional baggages that you're bringing from these soul ties. Because if you don't deal with those soul ties or the emotional baggages, it's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your business. It's going to affect your family. It's going to affect your relationship. Even the future that you have ahead of you, it's going to affect them a lot. All right. Quickly, as I begin to round up on these, I want to talk about some healing pathways, breaking soul ties, and releasing emotional baggage through God. There's a scripture that says, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. This makes healing a spiritual act as much as it's a psychological one. So you can combine both the clinical tools I've shared, using CBT, using DBT, using the act with with faith-based integration for your healing. Remember, prayer of renunciation. Name the soul tie specifically in prayer with person's name that you want to break away from. Verbally renounce and sever the spiritual, emotional, and physical bond. So, for example, you can say, Lord, I release this individual from my soul, my thoughts, and my spirit. Because if you do not, it's going to hurt you in the present and the future. You can also do this with a pastor, with a counselor, or with a trusted accountability partner. Forgiveness is another tool you can use, is a release. When you learn to forgive, I'm telling you, you can let go of the soul ties and the emotional baggage. Then scriptural based renewal, what happens there? Replace wound formed lies with scripture rooted truth daily. So remind yourself you are loved, because what past soul ties and emotional baggage brings to us makes you feel you have low self-esteem, you are not loved. Yes, I mean, you're not good enough. But remember what the scripture says about you. You are created in the image of God. That should be one of the most important thoughts that you have in your mind. Have a hope and a future. You have a hope and a future. Then you can put psychology and theology together, which is neuroplasticity and the scripture. The most powerful renewal combination. So when you think about what God has said and you think about what science has proven over time, you can have a strong combination of healing. Then community and accountability. Make sure you're in a community of people who can help you, because breaking soul tie in isolation is significantly harder than in communities. When you think you can deal with the pain, deal with the issues, deal with the insecure attachment by yourself, I'm telling you, you might not be able to overcome it. You might not be able to deal with it. Then find one safe, spirit-filled person to walk this journey with you. There's one person you can trust, one sister, one brother, one friend that you can trust that will help you go through this season of your life. A faith-informed counselor bridges clinical and spiritual healing. So, and that's what we do at FGI coaching, or what with Joel Osebo. We fuse clinical insight. So all of those therapeutic modalities, those scientific modalities, we fuse it with theology, with God's thoughts about you, for you to get your healing. Then confess to one another and pray for one another. So you see, there are great tools that are available to us from a spiritual perspective, from a clinical perspective, that can help you break the strongholds of soul ties, and also the of emotional baggage. Because if we don't handle it, it can mark the job you have, the good things that you have going on for you can be destroyed when emotional ties and emotional baggages are not effectively dealt with. And quickly, as a roundup, I just want to share this quick tip with us that can help you, just practical tips, interventions, and technique that you need to go through. So one of them is the detachment protocol, something you need to do, the renunciation letter, the identity rebuild, the somatic body work, the trigger journal, the grief ceremony, the professional counseling, accountability, and communities. All of these are great pathway, great steps that can help you break every stronghold of soul ties, emotional baggages that is affecting you right now, affecting your work, affecting your business, affecting your relationship, affecting your mental health and your spirituality. For what we can provide for you, the professional counseling aspect of it, we can really help cover that. We can walk with you and see that that area of your life they are dealt with. Now, this is going to also help you. I call them uh, suggested activities that can help you overcome this. And if you need a copy of this, just send us email at joelosebo at fragranceofgrace.org, and we're going to share this with you. Safety is always first. So there's what we call the A1, the source tie spectrum. This is an individual reflection that you can do. We have the baggage claim, how you can claim your past, the healthy versus unhealthy ties, the trigger mapping exercise that you can do, the A5, then the A5 talks about the release prayer, then identity reclamation, and close. So this structure is going to help you process all of the soul ties you've had in the past, all of the emotional baggage that you have, and we bring them to the present that can help you overcome whatever you are dealing with. And this 7 days emotional healing plan, soul tie emotional healing baggage plan will help you deal with it. Day one, we want you to name it. Day two, you detach. Day three, you feel it. Day four, you renounce it. Day five, you forgive. Day six, you reclaim. Day seven, you commit. This is a very strong tool that can help you, you know, deal with and overcome all the emotional ties and the emotional baggages that you are dealing with. I've been discussing in the last few minutes on soul ties and emotional baggage, how they affect our work, affect our families, affect our relationships, affect our businesses, our career, our spirituality, and also our health. A lot of the times from childhood to adulthood, we have so many insecure attachment that we bring to ourselves on a daily basis. And if we do not process them and heal ourselves of them, they can really hurt and harm us. As we come to a close, I just want to understand that the ties that once bound you can become the testimony that sets others free. So whatever you're dealing with right now can become a great point and a great place where you can become a testimony to others. And what can get you to be moved from a place of that test or the place from the trial to a place of testimony? It is walking through using clinical tools and faith-based integration to help you process all of those pains. And that is what we do at joelosebo.com and at fgicoaching.com. We're here to make sure we work with you, work with people so that they can regain wholeness in their life and have renewed focus for their families, for their relationships, for their mental health, for their spirituality. And I want to thank you once again for being part of today's episode. You can go back and watch it again on our YouTube page, Joel Osebo, on Facebook, Joel Osebo1, and on Instagram, where you can get a full gist of today's this conversation. But also, if you want to get a copy of each, a copy of the content, because we love to share a lot of resources. Like I said, you can send us email to joel.osebo at fragranceofgrace.org, or you can give us a call to just have that discovery call with us, and we can talk about what is it, whatever it is you are dealing with, and we can establish a relationship to help you process all of those emotions and those feelings and be able to give you a treatment plan or a program that can help you regain your wholeness and renewed focus in life. Thank you for being part of this episode. My name again is Joel Osebo. I look forward to seeing you same time next week, 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time Zone on New York time. Bye for now.